Our Old Testament reading is from the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, and it is verse 19, not verses 1 through 9. I am about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and the rivers of the desert. And the New Testament reading is from the book of John, chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. Who has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. So would you think it was strange if I greeted you today by saying Happy New Year? Well, if you were a teacher or a student, as I just asked these kids, maybe not, because it is the start of a new school year. And we know that the new year is celebrated in different ways at different times in different cultures. For example, we generally celebrate the new year on January 1st, but the Chinese New Year in 2023 is going to be on January 23rd. And that's when they mark the transition between winter and spring. The Muslims will celebrate the New Year in 2023 from the evening of July 18 to the evening of July 19. I love these explanations of the significance of the Muslim New Year. They consider this to be a perfect time to reflect on how they can improve their behavior and their lives and their relationship with God. Another report says that the beginning of the new year motivates Muslims to start something new, to be hopeful about their future, even in the toughest of times. Our Jewish neighbors will celebrate the new year very soon. Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, begins at the sundown of September 25th and lasts for 2 days until the sundown of the 27th. Rosh Hashanah marks the end of one agricultural cycle and the beginning of a new one. But like the Muslims, it's also a time of inner reflection, which is a wise practice whenever we begin something new. Now, I mentioned a couple of specific dates for specific New Years. Here's another way of looking at New Year. In 12-step groups, they say that a new day or a new year can start at any moment. You can begin again with the grace of God and always have the opportunity for a new beginning. Now, as some of you know, I've just returned from the island of Iona. It's a beautiful little island off the west coast of Scotland, a beautiful place with an ancient history. At the south end of this island is a beach called the Beach of New Beginnings. It's also called Columba's Bay. According to legend, it's here that St. Columba, the founder of the first Celtic Christian community at Iona, landed with a small band of pilgrims in 563 Common Era. He had been exiled from Ireland for reasons I won't go into, but nothing bad in my opinion. When he and the band of pilgrims landed, they supposedly buried their boat so that they could not have the temptation to return and would be forced then to start anew in this new place they had never seen before. I went to Iona with a group of 30-some pilgrims, most of whom I had never met before. It was a week-long spiritual retreat with silent meditation, talks and discussion, moving meditation, and also a series of rituals. We did a special ritual on the beach of New Beginnings, and it went like this. First, we were invited to walk around meditatively, thinking about something that we would like to let go of. And then we were to choose a rock that would symbolize that for us. Then we walked to the water's edge, and when we were ready, we cast that stone into the sea. And then we were invited to walk around again and find a stone to represent our new beginning. Some of us had them made into necklaces, and here's mine. I collected other stones as well, as you can see. Now, I wonder, if you were to throw a stone like this away, what would it represent? What worry, fear, failure, bad habit, resentment, unfulfilled dream, what sadness would you let go of so that you could have a new beginning? And what new beginning would be good for you today? New beginnings are sometimes hard to maintain, aren't they? Anyone who's made a New Year's resolution can attest to that. We might have the strength of will for a short while, for a few hours or a few days, but the pull of our old lives can be strong. So what can we use to help us stay strong when we have a new beginning? During my time at Iona, I learned about Saint Bridget, another person important to early Celtic Christianity. I wonder if you've heard about her. She's also associated with new beginnings. Next year, I missed something. St. Bridget is actually one of Ireland's 3 patron saints. Now, did you know there were 3 of them? You probably think immediately of St. Patrick. And then another one is St. Columba, who I've just been mentioning on the beach of New Beginnings. And the 3rd patron saint of Ireland is St. Bridget. Next year, Ireland will start a new tradition. For the first time, St. Bridget is going to be celebrated with a national celebration. Now, as you probably know, in high church tradition, for the Catholics, for example, the saints each have their own saint day represented and celebrated with a special mass. St. Bridget's saint day is February 1st. And so starting in 2023, February 1st will be a national holiday in Ireland. Why is she so important that she would inspire a national holiday? And how can she help us keep track of our new beginnings? Well, I found St. Bridget to be a fascinating and inspiring character. We don't have any actual writings from her, so what we know about St. Bridget is actually from oral tradition, written down a century or 2 after her life. The years of St. Bridget's life were said to be 451 to 525 Common Era. She founded a convent at Kildare, Ireland, that lasted at least until the 12th century. I've learned 3 things about St. Bridget that are helping to inspire me with new beginnings. St. Bridget is associated with doorways, healing water, and eternal fire. Doorways have a practical and a symbolic connection to St. Bridget. She was said to be a midwife, and not to be too graphic, but for a midwife, doorways were important for a practical reason, because women often gave birth in childhood, pressing against the doorways to help them deliver the child. Doorways are also associated with transitions. Doorways are a transition point between the outside and the interior of a building, a church, a home, or whatever. St. Bridget lived at the transition point between pagan and Christian traditions. Evangelists like St. Patrick and St. Columba were bringing Christianity to the British Isles between 400 and 500s, and St. Bridget represents that transition. She was said to be the offspring of a Druid priest and a Christian slave girl, and was named Bridget after the name of a Druid priestess. Now, much of this is legend and it's not provable, but that's not my point. What I'm interested in about St. Bridget is her invitation, her inspiration for transformation, her symbolic connection to new beginnings. Doorways remind us that in order to be truly transformed, to truly begin anew, we have to be open to the transformation. St. Bridget is also associated with water and healing powers. There are many sacred wells named for Bridget around the world, one of them near her abbey at Kildare and another near Glastonbury in England. In both cases, people have visited these wells for centuries, dipping cloth into the holy water and then bathing some part of them that needed healing and tying the cloth to a tree. In my mind, sort of like throwing something away into the ocean so that you can begin again. There's also a hidden well associated with St. Bridget on Iona. It's near the top of the highest hill, which is called Dun E. The well is sometimes called the Well of Eternal Youth, sometimes called St. Bridget's Well. For this well is associated with St. Bridget's role as a midwife. One legend says that St. Bridget was exiled on Iona for a while, and one day when she was herding sheep up near the top of Dun E, she stooped down to take a drink out of a little pool there. Then she fell asleep. She dreamed she was transported by angels back to Bethlehem, where, working as a serving maid in an inn, she became the midwife for Jesus' birth. Of course, it would have taken a miracle of time and space travel for this to have actually happened, but nevertheless, this legend has persisted. If you want to know more about it, you can look up the story of St. Bridget's blue cloak. Now, St. Bridget's Well on Iona is visible at ground level as a heart-shaped pool fed by a deep spring. We did a ritual washing there, another form of new beginning, during a day-long trek across Iona. It consisted of cupping our hands in the water and bathing each of our 5 senses in turn. First our eyes, then our nose, then our lips, then our ears, all the while feeling the water cupped in our hands. Our leader pointed out that this small act can remind us to be truly present, which is the way to be most useful and alive. He said also that this ritual can be performed anywhere, because really it's the choice to be mindful and the act itself, not the source of the water, that matters. Washing in this symbolic way is kind of like letting go, washing ourselves clean again of old things and starting anew with the help of God's grace and forgiveness. Now, in our short passage from Isaiah, the Lord says to us, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness." The modern Bible translation called The Message puts it this way: forget about what's happened. Don't keep going over old history. Be alert, be present. I'm about to do something brand new. It's bursting out. Don't you see it? Now, this calls on us to have hope and faith. Because do we still believe that God can do something entirely new to transform our world? It's our mission as Christians to help midwife God's transformations. Transformation requires us to be open, to let go of preconceived notions of how things are going to turn out, to be open to the possibility of something holy and brand new. Now, there's lots of things I could say about St. Bridget, but the last thing I'm going to talk about is eternal fire. It's said that St. Bridget was born just at the transition point between day and night, right at sunrise. Some legends say that at the moment of her birth, a flame sprung from her forehead. Others say that when she converted to Christianity, a flame appeared above her head. St. Bridget is the traditional patroness of fire. She's associated with light, inspiration, and all the skills associated with fire. It's said that when she converted to Christianity, she extinguished the pagan fire at Kildare and relit a new fire dedicated to Christ. This flame represented for her the new life of Christianity, the light of Christ. And this fire was kept burning by her followers for at least 1,000 years, until Henry VIII extinguished it when he broke with the Catholic Church. Now, St. Bridget's fire may have disappeared for a little while, may have been extinguished, but it wasn't entirely gone. Our scripture from the Gospel of John reminds us that the light of Christ shines even in the darkness. Verse 5 says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." I don't know about you, but I have to keep repeating that line to myself. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There's a modern-day spiritual organization in Kildare called the Brigadine Sisters, founded in the 1800s. In 1993, this community hosted an international peace and justice conference. As part of that, St. Bridget's fire was relit. It burned in the market square at Kildare. And from there, the Brigadine Sisters took a spark of this and lit an eternal flame at their retreat center called Solace Bride. According to the Brigadine Sisters website, the Bridget light is still guarded and tended in Solace Bride as it was in Kildare many centuries ago. The flame burns as a beacon of hope, justice, and peace for Ireland and for the world. This too is our mission, to keep tending this eternal fire, to keep the light of Christ alive in ourselves, and to share this fire with others. Today we've talked about letting go, we've talked about transitions, we've talked about washing ourselves clean, we've talked about keeping hope alive. We've also talked about new beginnings. In your spiritual journey as a Christian, what are you now ready to let go of? And what is waiting in you to be born today for yourself and for this church community?